Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we've got kind of an opposite, in some ways, when it comes to the media world, almost a bizarro world story about Rian Johnson. Because most articles that are written about Rian Johnson these days are about rumor Rian Johnson's trilogy has been canceled, or rumor finally Rian Johnson's trilogy has been canceled, or rumor, oh my goodness, Rian Johnson's trilogy has finally been canceled. But this is the opposite of that, which to me is kind of a little bit interesting, right? Now it's not just a rumor, it's a report that Rian Johnson's trilogy is still in development. And this is pretty much what I've been saying for a while at this point. Until we get confirmation from Disney or from Rian Johnson himself, I would say that it's likely that it's still in development. Now, whether or not it happens or not, I still am of the firm mindset that it won't happen, because I think that Disney, when it comes to money, like to make it, and they know, and or at least should know, because they seem to be relatively bright, insert jokes here, that they would at the very least say, yeah, you know what, Rian Johnson getting his own Star Wars trilogy would probably not be the best thing going forward. So what is likely going to happen? Well, remember, we're also told not only that we would get a Rian Johnson trilogy, but we would also get a Benioff and Weiss trilogy. And then that quickly became, especially after the end of Game of Thrones, oh, no. They're just starting a new series of Star Wars films. We have 3 films announced for the next, several years. We've got 3 films coming out starting in 2022. And the first of those films, that's what's going to be under Benioff and Weiss. They're not going to have their own trilogy. And then there were also rumors floating around that they were working closely with Rian Johnson and that Rian was guiding them through the process. And if you need anything else to sell you on how to not do Star Wars, or rather why you shouldn't watch any of those films, the names Benioff, Weiss, and Johnson are probably the 3 names that should be furthest away from Star Wars at this point, if it's something that you actually want to sell to be a good film. Because if we know anything about them, we know that Benioff and Weiss, when they're on their own, when they're given the keys to the kingdom, as was the case with Game of Thrones when they finally were able to do a lot of things on their own, do not know how to write a story, and also at the end of the day, do not know how to end a story. And that Rian Johnson, of course, by his own admission, is not much of a writer either. Though I'm sure that Knives Out, which apparently is coming out in film festivals, I think the Canadian Film Festival is what I was told. I think it's coming out this weekend or very soon. So we'll start to hear those early praises, because you know the critics are just going to say, oh my gosh, Rian Johnson's, it's a treasure. It's as good, if not better, than The Last Jedi. You know that's going to come up in their conversations, because obviously they want to shill. And Rian Johnson, up until this point, until we know otherwise, is still Kathleen Kennedy's boy. Though, of course, there's another B word that you could probably add in there that would be a little bit more accurate as to why he is liked so much by her. But as we all know, she's still around. Rian Johnson is, again, for lack of a better knowledge that we don't really have at this point, is also still around. But it's interesting that now we're getting stories that he is still around and not the other way around, right? So, our friends over at Bounding in the Comics report. A new report indicates Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is still in development. A report from Deadline discussing Johnson and Ram Bergman's new business venture T Street, which aims to create original content for movies and TV shows, indicates Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is still happening. Deadline reports they are crafting a new film series set within the Star Wars universe, and those plans remain on the boards. And so, as I said before, it seems likely that that is the case, that it is still on the board. Whether or not it actually comes to fruition, I would say is a giant question mark, and I honestly believe that it probably won't happen. But as I said before, that's mostly a hunch based off of box office and based off of the general sentiment that most people, I would say, of the hardcore fandom have towards Rian Johnson's Last Jedi especially. But I think that it's very likely at this point that the plan going forward is to have Benioff and Weiss start the trilogy, Rian Johnson take over at some point, and have it be a film series started by them. Which to me, I mean, honestly, if you were going to tell me that the people that destroyed Game of Thrones and the person that made The Last Jedi were all going to come together to make a new Star Wars trilogy, oh man, I know what I'm going to see opening day. Said no one ever. But seriously, it is pretty interesting and pretty funny that these are all coming out. So while Deadline reports Johnson's trilogy is still in the works, all other indications point that it might not be happening at all. And if it is happening, it might be only one film. Disney and Lucasfilm recently reported their upcoming movie schedule, which revealed they only have 3 new Star Wars films on the slate. Those films will take place in 2022, 2024, and 2026. Also, what we know is Bob Iger, as it says later on, was that that the series that they were talking about would be Benioff and Weiss, that they would be going with them first. But the reason why we bring that up, and the reason why, Bounding Into Comics brings it up, and the reason why it's talked about here, in conjunction with why we think that Rian Johnson's trilogy is not happening, is because that means that no other Star Wars films, because they're not going to do it every other year, or rather every single year like they were planning to do originally, because of just the abysmal results of Solo, even though anyone with a brain knows that's because of The Last Jedi and not because of so-called Star Wars fatigue, because, again, if it's a good movie, people are going to go see it, because if you're going to build up a strong film with film that people actually want to see, that fans actually want to see, and you're going to do it well, and you're not going to crap on the fans in the process, guess what? Fans are going to show up for it no matter what, because, as we all know, that tends to be the case with any of these things. But when you look at those dates, 2024 to 2026, you realize, okay, so you really honestly say that they're going to really long-term book this so much that Rian Johnson's first movie might not come out until 2028. If they're going to keep on with the no new films for at least 2 years apart, well, then that would seem to indicate that 2028 would be the next one. So you're telling me that they're going to wait another 8 or 9 years? They're going to keep Rian Johnson on the hook for a new trilogy for 8 or 9 years? It just doesn't seem likely, right? It just doesn't seem to make any sense. And so we're using logic and reason, and also, of course, what we know about the fandom and how the fandom feels about The Last Jedi, especially, to basically indicate why we think Rian Johnson's trilogy is probably not happening up to this point. Bob Iger himself says, "We did a deal with Benioff and Weiss, who are famous of Game of Thrones, and the next movie they will release will be theirs, and we're not saying any more about it," is what they said. And it was also indicated that originally it was a trilogy, and now that is no longer the case. So because they are working with Rian Johnson, as it says right here, from Kathleen Kennedy herself saying they're working very close with Rian, it just seems to indicate that no matter what we're getting, no matter whether Rian Johnson's trilogy is dead or gone, no matter what the new deal is with Benioff and Weiss, whether they're going to be around or not because of their $250 million deal with Netflix, all we can know is this. If the future of Star Wars is Benioff, Weiss, and Johnson, we can be guaranteed that Star Wars will continue to not learn their lesson and will continue to provide subpar garbage tier crap. What are y'all's thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section below. Please let me know your thoughts on Rian Johnson, whether his trilogy is alive or not, but also Benioff and Weiss being thrown into the mix. And do you think that all three of them together create the perfect storm of terrible ideas, and what that would mean for Star Wars going forward? Love to hear some of your thoughts on that in that comments, and also especially in the pinned comment below. Also, if you want to support the channel, please check out my affiliate links, especially Display, because I get a pretty good chunk of that. And they've got some really awesome kick-ass posters like the Alita poster and John Wick poster behind me. They are fantastic. That is the medium-sized poster. They come in large and extra large too. Large would be a standard size one sheet for any movie poster you've ever seen before. That's going to be the typical large, and extra large is even bigger than that, which is freaking awesome. They're made of metal. They're awesome, and they will not creak like the or crease like the other paper ones will. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. Also, let me know everything. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.